So at Landmark, we utilize a study skills framework. Um, and by that at Landmark, we mean the explicit teaching of how to manage our materials, our time, and our information. And then also how we can build in the development of that personal learning awareness or metacognition for our students. So I'm going to move through strategies in each of these three foundational categories, and then our fourth kind of interwoven metacognitive category. Um, I think this is a great framework as a teacher for thinking about how to build in these strategies and how to marry study skills instruction with our content. So I think back to when I was a teacher at the high school, I taught British literature the whole time I was there. I loved British literature. And, I wanted that class to be challenging for my seniors. So I was often thinking about what themes I wanted to get into and how I wanted them to interact with the literary text. But I also was thinking about the study skills behind that were essential for their future. So I wanted them to also think about how do you navigate a unit syllabus? And how do you actively read when texts are more complex and complicated? So, really thinking about wedding that idea of content with study skills. I also think it's a helpful framework to make explicitly visible to students. That's one of the things we do in our study skills classes is talk to our students about we want to help you manage your materials, we want to help you manage your time and the information and language coming at you in class so that you can become a more self-aware metacognitive learner and feel more self-efficacy and confidence. So I like to just put that little plug for why the study skills framework can be so helpful, both as a teacher and as a student. So we like to start with materials management. When we think of study skills, we see this as a prerequisite skill for the rest because knowing where the materials you need are and how to access them is sort of foundational to success. And you need those to be able to kind of get to the other skills as well. So students who might really need some organization with their materials are ones who might have messy backpacks, lost papers and assignments constantly. I like to talk about the black hole lockers or backpacks, where it's like you don't know what's in there or where things have disappeared to once they enter the black hole. When we shift to digital spaces, they might have endless untitled documents and no folders on their Google Drive, for example. And they might struggle to find something even though they did complete it. We talk a lot about how frustrating that can be when a student has completed the assignment but can't find it anywhere and therefore doesn't get credit for the work that they did do. Um, and then they might just struggle to have the material they need simply to navigate class. Um, so for these students, but remember, for all of our students, really, it's important to have some sort of a system. So don't assume students have one or know how to create one on their own. I think systems need to be explicitly taught and shown to our students. And that includes both for physical spaces like binders, folders, but also for our digital organization. Um, I think one of my colleagues says it best. She said, when you give a student even a single piece of paper, you should know what its home should be. So we need to, every time we give, maybe the home for that is a recycling bin because they don't need it later. And it was just to get them pen to paper thinking. But if that's not your intention, then we should know where we want it to live. If it's in a certain folder, in a section of their backpack or binder, um, that paper needs a home. We also want to set it up with students, not just have that system, but set it up with them and have them be a part of it. I think one great way to do this is to have materials checklists that you sort of can build with the students even. They can also be incorporated into assignments, a prompt on an assignment sheet that says, what will I need for this activity? So that they have to sort of think through the materials they might need to complete that activity successfully, which, side note, prompts that sort of personal learning awareness and mega cognitive thinking that we're aiming for. And then after, setting up with students, you also want to reinforce it with students. So you want to have binder checks. You want to have ways to show that you're using it to make it important and valued to the students. So this is just one example of a grading rubric. If you want to make it a graded component, that can, I think, often be really effective. And just have regular check-ins to show I, the teacher, am paying attention to how you have organized your materials and your spaces. I also think when you're reinforcing it, another way to do so can be to, show them that they can use their notes for, say, a warm-up activity. You could say, you can use yesterday's notes to complete this do now. And that's reinforcing, like, it's important to have a system and know where your things are so that you can use those materials effectively later. We also want to model a consistent system when using digital workspaces, which is obviously really common now. Um, this particular shot is showing Google Classrooms. I know a lot of schools have their own systems, and Aspen's frequently in use. I think what's important when thinking about these digital workspaces is that we want to post assignments kind of consistently in a consistent place with consistent formatting. We want to have the submission step be the same most times, like the turn it in step is consistent. So, for example, if you really are a teacher who wants them to print and hand it in on paper, that's okay, but it should try to be consistent. And if it shifts to something online, that needs to be really clearly communicated, because that's, I think, where students can, if they get into a routine of one kind of submission, then they can be kind of throw them for a loop when it's changed up without communication. And then online, it's really helpful if we can showcase those resources that are going to be helpful for them as they attack that particular task. So rubrics, models, outline templates that might be essential if they have a writing assignment, have those easily accessible somewhere on that digital learning space. And then I think the really important tip there is that they're going to need it explicitly reviewed with them often. They're going to need us to explain why things are organized in certain ways. I used to constantly project my page and show students. We used to use Canvas. So I would show students, this is how you get to this assignment on Canvas. And I would show them that over and over again to help them learn how to navigate that particular digital space. And I will say, this is where, in my work with college students, the ones who have had some familiarity with how to navigate those online spaces are less shocked when they get to the inevitably really complex ones that college tend to throw their way.